من لساني يفقه قولي آمين رب العالمين. So today we come with our promised story time, right? You guys wanted to hear stories of prophets, right? And I know that you guys wanted to hear some of the more exciting stories about Musa alayhi salam and Yunus alayhi salam and Yusuf alayhi salam. Today though, I really want to start off this series with a prophet that I feel is just not given enough credit in the Muslim Ummah today. It's not given enough credit. And to me, I feel like this prophet is one of the coolest men that ever walked on earth. One of the coolest men that ever walked on earth. And there are various reasons for that, and we'll get into that as we go through this series.
Who is it?
I'll tell you very soon. But this man, and the reason that I say that he's not given enough credit is because when we talk about him, because of the tests that he went through, because of the trials that he went through, all prophets went through tests, right? All prophets were tested, and all of their tests were extreme. They went through some extreme tests because they were the best of the best, right? They were the best of the best. And Allah's promise is that the better you are in Iman, the more you claim to have Iman, the more you are closer to me, the more I'm going to test you. And so the prophets, the closest people to Allah, the chosen men of Allah on this earth, were tested the most. But when we talk about, let's say, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, or Yusuf alayhi salam, or Yunus alayhi salam, their tests were, how should I put this, exciting, right? Musa alayhi salam parted the sea with his staff. That's pretty cool. And then Yunus alayhi salam was? What happened to Yunus?
Swallowed
He was swallowed by a fish.
by a whale.
And so these stories are so exciting. But this prophet, and his name is Ibrahim alayhi salam. This prophet, the tests that he went through, the trials that he went through, were to some form, at least when he is spoken of in today's Muslim Ummah, they seem a little morbid. They seem a little, how does a man go through that? You know, and they're pretty serious tests. They're pretty serious tests. And I began this lecture today, this story time today. I said that he's to me at least, he's one of the coolest men that ever walked this earth. And yes, his tests were extreme. And he's a very serious man, don't get me wrong. He is a very serious man, Ibrahim alayhi salam. But his tests, the legacy that this man has left for the Muslim Ummah today, and specifically what I want to focus on, especially in today's story, is the legacy that this Prophet alayhi wasalam left for the Muslim children. Muslim youth. The legacy. Do you guys know what legacy means? You don't? Okay. Legacy means the examples. The examples to follow. Or kind of the pathway that he created. A path that he created for the Muslim children today is the legacy he left the Muslim youth. He's left legacies for everyone. This man has left legacies for everyone. There is a reason why he is mentioned with extreme honor in the Quran. When Allah talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam, he talks about him with reverence. He talks about him with honor and respect. And this man was given multiple names by Allah. They include Hanif, Khalil, Imam. He was generous. He was a prophet. He was a follower of Nuh alayhi salam, and so many more other names came from Allah for this prophet. And there are reasons for that. There are very big reasons for that. But this man left legacies for everyone. And prophets are mentioned in the Quran. Why are prophets mentioned in the Quran? What is the purpose? You guys know? Is Allah just telling us stories? Is Allah just telling us stories? Is that what Allah does? Tell stories? No. He mentions these prophets in the Quran because the Quran came down to who? to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going through extreme trials in his life, extreme times in his life, Allah sent down these stories to tell the Prophet, look, before you, there were other prophets who came, who went through very similar things. And we'll get into a little bit of that today, just to give you an example of how Allah used Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam to exemplify something that our Prophet was going through, to help him get through it. Because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has the biggest ummah. The biggest ummah. From his time until the day of judgment, there is no more prophet that's going to come. True? There's no more prophet. Anybody else coming? No. So his example, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his example is going to be the example for the rest of eternity. The rest of time is going to be his example. So he needs to be able to get through these trials in the best way, correct? He needs to be able to get through these trials in the best way. And so Allah gave him examples, very, very good examples of what prophets have been through before, so that he could go through his trials properly. Okay? So what I want to get into today is not what Ibrahim alayhi salam has done in his entire life, but I want to get into how was he as a child. How was Prophet Ibrahim as a child, as a young little boy, young man, growing up in a city where people worshipped idols?
I know that story.
I know. But my purpose of the story today is not just to tell you the story, but to give you lessons that we derive from his childhood. And he's that kind of a prophet. He left lessons for us even from a very young age. When he was your age, he started to think about things that we don't even, bother about today. And he left examples for the Muslim youth, for Muslim children to follow till the end of time. But why do I call this guy so cool? Let's just talk a little bit about that before we get into, so that we really understand what this man was made of. Why is he so cool? What trials did Ibrahim alayhi salam go through?
He was thrown into a big fire.
He was thrown into a big fire.
A big fire that not even the birds can fly over, not even animals can go in. It was so hot that not even one human can get close to it. Only they were surprised and only some of them believed in a lot, but the half of them were still really angry with him.
Do you know why he was thrown into the fire?
Because he destroyed the idols. They're gods.
So let's think about that for just a little bit. This guy, Prophet alayhi wasallam, goes and breaks some stone idols in a temple. He goes and breaks them. He hangs the axe around the biggest one, right? The biggest one, and there's a name for that god that these people had. And then these people got so angry that they threw a guy into a fire. Why?
These people got angry even though he broke a stone idol that they worship, is really helpless and does not know how to do it.
No, that's what Ibrahim alayhi salam said. But why were these people so angry?
Because he destroyed their gods.
Their gods! Would we be angry if someone came and said, Na'uzubillah, Allah doesn't know anything, who is Allah, there is no Allah? Would you be angry? Mm-hmm. You'd be angry. We wouldn't throw a person into a fire, for sure. That's not what Muslims do. But then these people, Ibrahim alayhi salam destroyed their gods, their entire way of life. So they were really, really angry. How old was Ibrahim?
16.
Do you not want to come close to that, okay? How old was he?
16.
He was very young. He was pretty young. Look at the guts of this guy. In a city, He was born in a city where there were at least 200,000 to 250,000 people that lived in this city.
His father was the one that made these idols.
True. Very true. We'll get into that a little bit as well.
And also I have a question about.
Okay, let's leave questions for a little later. Let me finish this, what I'm trying to say. So he destroyed the gods of a city where 200 to 250,000 people lived. All of them believed in these gods. All of them.
Even his father?
All of them believed in these gods. The 16-year-old child goes into a temple. He knows the value of these gods to these people. And he breaks them all. And not only that, he's ironic enough to leave the axe hanging around the biggest one, saying, you know what? I don't know who broke your idols. Go and ask the biggest one. He can tell you. The guts on this guy. Imagine it. The guts that this little man had, alayhi salam. What other test did he go through? So, sorry, he was thrown into the fire. At that age, he was thrown into a fire. And this is why I said that the trials that Ibrahim alayhi salam went through sound a little morbid to us. They sound a little extreme to us. Right? They sound like, wow, how does a person even go through that? It's not as cool, apparently, as some of the other prophet stories. But they are. They are. He is being thrown into a fire that a bird will not fly over. No man will go even close to this fire. It was so big and so hot that they had to catapult this guy into the fire. Alayhi salam.
And then an angel.
They had to catapult him into the fire. But at the age of 16, he did not flinch. He did not cry. He did not beg for mercy. He said, do it. I have Allah. I have Allah. Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa rabbul arshil azim.
Then an angel came and asked him, does he want any weapon? And the angel grabbed him and he said, no.
I don't need your help.
If Allah wants to help
If Allah wants to help me, that's all I need. Hasbi Allah. That's what Hasbi Allah means. Allah is sufficient for me. Who are you? You're his slave too. He's talking to the angel. You're his slave too. You're not going to save me. Allah is going to save me. He doesn't need you to save me. He can save me himself if he wants to. One thing that I want you guys to note here before we move on, because this is going to be important right at the end. Right at the end. One thing that you look at, the belief, the trust, being thrown into a fire. The logic of the world is if you touch fire, you're going to be burnt. You're going to be burnt. So there probably, and I'm assuming here, I'm just assuming for the purpose of this session today, this story night today, this story time today, is either Ibrahim alayhi salam thought that Allah is going to save me from the fire, either I'm not going to fall into it or he's going to do something if he wants to, or if he wants to, I'm going to burn alive. Either way, it's Allah's will. Either way, that's what Allah wants to happen. Because he was helpless. There was nothing he could do. Could he save himself? No. He's in a situation, he's tried his best to guide these people. Now, a city of 200,000 people is throwing him into a fire. There's nothing that this little guy can do. Alayhi wasalam.
Because his hands are tied, his feet are tied, everything's tied.
He is overpowered. And so the only help he has is from Allah. And now he decides either Allah is going to save me, if he wants to, or I'm going to burn alive. Both ways, he's fine. He's okay with it. What kind of belief in Allah do you need to have to be able to be okay with any of these two? Especially the last one. To be burnt alive, I'm okay if that's what Allah wants. And then there's more examples of this in his life. What other trials did he go through? Was one of the most famous trials that Ibrahim alayhi salam went through is when he was asked to
do something.
Sacrifice his son.
What?
Ismail.
Ismail.
So first night he saw a dream that he is sacrificing his son. And in those days, sacrificing means you cut their throat. Again, the reason why I said that some of his trials they sound a little morbid to us. It's one of the reasons why we don't give him, alayhi salam, enough credit. First night he saw the dream that he was sacrificing his son. And he thought, this is the Iblis, this is the devil tricking me. Then he saw the same dream further 2 nights in a row. So 3 times, and he could no longer deny that this is directly from Allah. And he understood that Allah wants me to sacrifice what is most precious to me. What is most precious to me. Guy didn't flinch. Alayhi salam. He did not flinch. He did not hesitate for a second. He realized, the moment he realized this is what Allah wants me to do, he was ready to do it. He took his son to be sacrificed.
But when he cut it, his fur, it would not cut.
True. But get the point. Look at the situation that this guy, alayhi wasalam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, was put into. Sacrifice what is most precious to you. Ibrahim alayhi salam could not have children for many years. And he asked Allah, and he asked Allah, and he asked Allah, Allah, please give me a child, a progeny from me, so that they can carry on my work. And Allah wouldn't give it to him. Many years later of asking, Allah finally gave it to him when he was an old man. Finally, He gave him a son. And then Allah asked him, sacrifice that son to me. Imagine the situation that he was put into. But his belief in Allah did not flinch. This son was given to me by Allah. And Allah wants to take him away. That's His choice.
Allah.
I got nothing to do there. I can't do nothing. Zaira, don't come close to that. Thank you. I got nothing to do. But then the belief, it's not like, Allah, oh my God, what are you asking? You gave me this son, now you're going to take him away. There's 2 ways of looking at it, right? There's 2 ways of looking at it. Someone tells you something to do. You then either, oh man, I got to do this now. Or you can be happy about it. You asked me to do this, I'm going to do this for you. Because I want to. I want to. There's 2 ways of doing it. You're still doing it. You're still believing that this is good. But there's 2 attitudes that you can approach it with. One is you can groan and mumble and you can, oh man, I gotta do this. Like Nahiya does sometimes. Sorry, Nahiya. Or you can be happy about it. I'm gonna do this. Which one was Ibrahim alayhi salam? I'm gonna do this. Again, note the level of belief that this man alayhi wasalam had in Allah. The level of tawakkul, the level of trust that this man had in Allah was beyond comprehension. Beyond comprehension. This is why I say he's one of the coolest men on earth. His level of tawakkul, his level of belief in Allah, what he was ready to do for his master is something that we cannot incorporate into our thoughts in today's day and age. Yes, Zaira.
I know I asked this question before, but you know how you said when he was in a place where everybody used to worship idols?
Mm-hmm.
I know I asked it before, but why do they think these are gods when someone made them? Because God cannot be made.
Well, that's the question that Ibrahim alayhi salam had. And again, that's one of his legacies that he left behind. And I'm happy that you asked that question, Zaira. So let's get a little bit into the history of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Where was he born? What kind of family? What kind of city? What were the surroundings that he grew up in so that we can derive some lessons from it?
For some reason, I think he was born in Mecca.
Okay, let's not jump into assumptions. Let history tell us what actually happened. So this is archaeological evidence. historical accounts and mixed with accounts in the Quran that these accounts that I'm going to go through have come up with. Okay? So, Ibrahim alayhi salam was born in a city called Ur. Ur. Ur is currently what we know as Babylonia in Iraq, is where Ur was established. Ur was a big city. It was a big city. It was a trade city. So they did a lot of business, money, sales, and so on and so forth. Ur had a population, like I said, about 200 to 250,000. So a lot of people. A big, big city for that time. This was around 2100 BC. 2100 BC. So before Isa alayhi salam. 2100 years before Isa alayhi salam. You okay, Zaira? Okay. So like I said, the city was a majority of traders. They did business. So they made stuff, they sold stuff, they bought stuff, and that's how they survived. Okay? So it was a trade city. And in this trade city, there are 3 classes of people. How many?
3 classes.
1, they were called the Amelu. Amelu or Amilu. Amilu were the higher class of people, the rich, the famous, the people who drove around in Mercedes and Porsches and stuff like that. So the higher class people, the rich people, are called Amilu. Then there's another group of people, they're called Mushkinu. Mushkinu are the kind of second grade citizens. Mushkinu are the craftsmen, so the people who make horseshoes and people who are making doors and chairs and stuff like that. And then there were farmers, Mushkinu as well. So the farmers who provided food for the people. So how many classes have we talked about? 2. Amelu, the high class. So the high class people were the rich, and among them were the priests, the royal family, the rich, the famous. The people who were politicians were all in this class. Okay? The second grade people were farmers and tradesmen. So people who actually provided the upper class people with their amenities. And then there was the lower grade people who were the slaves, who served everyone else. Okay? Historical accounts say, and there's proof of that little bits here and there in the Quran, that Ibrahim alayhi salam was born into a family of Amilu. He was born into a family of Amilu. He was rich. His family was rich. Not only rich, but they were influential. So they had power. They had say in how things were run. They had say in how things were done in the city. So if something was happening, they would have kind of priority. They were the first people to get food. They were the first people to get, priority in decision making. Anything was happening, they were called to the event. So they are kind of the prestigious people. In this kind of a family, Ibrahim alayhi salam was born. So now let's put that into context. Ibrahim alayhi salam had most of the privileges that life had to offer back then. Right? Think of times today. So a child, much like you, very much like you, who had a good house to live in, food on the table, good food, not just food, anything they wanted, so chocolates and chips and Coke and anything that they could demand at that time, Ibrahim alayhi salam had on his table. If he wanted a toy, he wanted a wooden horse, he'd get it. He wanted a piece of land, he'd get it. Privileged people. That's where he was born into. Now imagine a child in this day and age who has that kind of stuff. So they want a tab, they get a tab. They want a phone, they get a phone. Right? They have TV to watch unlimited cartoons. Food whenever they want. Whatever kind of food they want. They have a car to ride in, boats, and everything that more or less children like you have. So what reason does he have to think about anything else? He has everything he wanted. To be busy all day long, he has everything.
No fair.
So that's again something that you want to keep in mind as we go along in this story. He's born into a good family. So it's not like he was struggling. It was not like he's poor. It's not like he's being beaten on a daily basis. It's not like there's no food or he's hungry. He has everything he wants.
No fair.
Right? So do you. So it's fair, Zaira, definitely. And then, just to go back to the city, remember I said, is full of traders. Their God, because they're polytheists, right? They have many, many, many gods. But they had a main God. The main God's name was Nanar.
The Nan.
Named after the moon.
What's the Nan?
So he was the god of the moon.
Who's the Nan?
Nanar is their main god in Ur.
The Nan?
Nanar. His temple was built on the highest hill. On the highest hill in that area in Ur, his temple was built. And this was a magnificent palace. A magnificent palace. In this palace, all the priests and some of the important people and the royal family also lived in this temple. The royal family lived in this temple. And surrounding this temple were big businesses. Go. Big, be careful. Sorry, Nahiya. Big businesses, right? And surrounding this temple were also businesses that were kind of for the god, Nanar. And surrounding the temple were also all the other gods. So you can imagine this city was kind of carved around their god. Everything that happened in that city was for Nanar, the god of moon. There was another city who had a god of sun, Shamur or something, I don't remember. Shamas was his name. There was another city, bigger city, which had a god called Shamas, the god of moon. And the god of sun. And this god, Nanar, was the god of the moon, right? And then there was a temple beside the god for his wife, and it was like a whole, production there. There was a whole production. Now sit down. All right. There's a whole production there. So what I'm trying to get at is that the city and how it functions depends on their god. Everything revolves around Nanar. The trade, how people behaved, the festivals that they had, all the celebrations that they had, anything they did, anything they made, anything they sold, anything they bought was for Nanar. And of course themselves. Right? So they thrived on materialism. They thrived on materialism. And so when they asked their gods for things, they didn't ask their god for forgiveness or, prosperity in the next life. They asked their gods for things in this life.
But did they ever get
Oh God or Nanar, give me prosperity in this life, give me many riches, give me a good house, good wife, good children. All they asked for was this life. And that's the life of these people in Ur. In this city, Ibrahim a.s. was born. In this city, Ibrahim a.s. was born. Now the story that I'm saying today, the accounts that I'm narrating to you today are surrounding several ayah in Surah Al-An'am, where Ibrahim a.s. is sitting in a cave and he's looking at the stars, he's looking at the moon, he's looking at the sun, and he's trying to figure out who his God is.
So he's like, is the sun Allah? But he was like, no, because Allah doesn't disappear.
Exactly.
He thought the moon was Allah, but the moon disappears. He thought the stars was Allah, but the stars disappear, so he does not. So he knew that we cannot see Allah.
You're getting ahead but you're right. You're getting ahead of the story, but you're definitely right. So, now Ibrahim a.s. being born into this, do you think children of your age think about these things? Is that my God? Is that my God? Is that my God? No. Because children of your age, especially children who are born into Muslim families, are taught this is your God. This is your religion. This is the path that you need to follow. Ibrahim a.s. was also taught the same thing. These gods that we make, this Nannar and all the little gods that surround him, are the gods that give you everything. They're the gods that provide for you. Follow them, prostrate to them, worship them. Isn't that what he was taught? And so just like you, just like all the other Muslim kids on earth, just like all other religions, children believe what their parents tell them. True or false?
True.
Children believe, and children go into the religion. Children go into the religion that their parents teach them. They don't question. Do you question? You don't question. I didn't question. Normally we believe what our parents tell us, and in the community that we grow up in, we believe them. And we grow up with that belief. So much so that when we grow up with that belief, anyone questions us, we get angry. We get defensive. No, no, no. What I believe is true. What you believe is not true. Because you grew up learning that. You understand what I'm saying? But Ibrahim a.s. did not do that.
Because they were stone.
He didn't do that. No, no. Forget the fact that they were stones. The point that I'm trying to make is that this young man did not take things for granted. He didn't just believe what his parents told him. He didn't just believe what everyone else was doing, although he had every reason to do that. He had every reason to do that. That's what he was taught. That was he was born into. That he was given everything that he ever wanted. He had no reason to question anything. But he did. He questioned it. And he said, these gods they can't even move. They can't even move. They can't talk to me. If I'm drowning in water and this God is standing there, this God is not going to be able to come and save me. Why do you worship them? So the first thing that we note about this young man is that he questioned. He has an inquisitive mind.
That was about to be my question.
Yes.
My question was actually going to be, if Allah is right up there and He helped the other prophets, but when I am in trouble, why doesn't He help us?
That's a very deep question. It's out of context, but we've covered a bit of this before, and we can revisit those Nahiya a little bit as we go along. But that's a question for you, Nahiya, that I feel that you need to explore yourself. Are you listening? Mm-hmm. You need to explore that yourself. Why does Allah sometimes remain silent when we need help? Why is He not, or is He helping us? Is it that we're not seeing it? Is it that we're so engrossed in our problem that we don't see that Allah is actually giving me more than what I need? Something for us to think about. But I like, Nahiya, I actually love that you have that kind of inquisitive mind. Okay? Keep asking questions. Keep asking questions to yourself. Keep asking questions to me. Keep throwing those questions out there. And inshallah, Allah will give you the answer to these questions as you move along, as you keep searching for the right answers, the truth. And we'll get to that a little bit. So, Ibrahim a.s. was not willing to take things as they came. He was like, no, I need to look for the truth. If these are really my God, if these are really who I'm supposed to be worshipping, I'm going to arrive at that conclusion by myself. Not because my dad told me, not because my mom told me, not because billions, thousands of people are doing the same thing, but I need to arrive at that conclusion by myself. And remember, we talked about this. One of the things that Muslim children need to start doing today is questioning why they're Muslim. Questioning why they're Muslim. Why am I Muslim? Why do I believe in Allah? What proof do I have that Allah really exists? And they need to start exploring, just like Nahiya is asking, start exploring that for themselves. Not just believe their parents because their parents are telling. Not just believe the community because everyone's saying so. But if you don't arrive at that conclusion yourself, then have you really found the truth? No.
Sometimes because your parents are not always right.
True. Maybe wrong. Right? Or maybe they are on the truth, but they're doing some things that are wrong. And so you need to find out the truth for yourself. And then, what did he do? he started to question everything. He started to question everything. But now remember, he is from what? He's from an influential family. He's from a powerful family. So when he goes out into the market, accounts say that he was selling something or he was buying something in the market, bazaar. And he stood up in a high place and he started preaching to the people, why do you follow these stones? Why do you worship these stones? They're powerless. And so imagine what Ibrahim a.s.'s father felt at that moment. What did he feel?
Frustrated.
Angry, for sure.
He felt so angry that he told him to leave.
He was embarrassed because this guy is from a prestigious family. He's from a prestigious family. And so when Ibrahim a.s. is embarrassing like that in the marketplace, no, it doesn't matter, it's his son. Dude, you're questioning the very style of life, the very fabric of life in this city. This little dude, alayhi salam, is questioning the very fabric of life. Remember I said this city depends on that trade that Nanar brings in. This city surrounds itself with trade and business and lifestyles around this god Nanar, this stone, Nanar. And so when Ibrahim a.s. points his finger directly at Nanar, then said, what are you doing? The people, the very way of life is questioned. And Ibrahim a.s. is not just saying this to his father. He's not just saying it in his house. He's saying it in public. What are you doing? These are stones. They can't do nothing for you. There's only one God. That's who you need to be worshipping. And so these people were offended. They were angry. But most of all, his father was embarrassed. His father was embarrassed. And then Ibrahim a.s. questioned his father. Like, bro, why do you make these?
What a funny kid.
He's cool. He's funny. He's cool.
But he's serious mostly.
He's pretty serious. He questions his dad. He questions his dad, and he's not angry at his dad. He says, Ya Abi. He says, oh, my loving father. Almost as if to say, Father, I love you. But what are you doing? You're making the stones that these people worship. Why do you make them? And do you not see, dude, what are you doing? You're making your gods? You're making the gods that you worship by your own hand. And his father is like, no. These just represent the gods. Why do you need a representation of your God? And so these questions, these burning questions, this little dude asks his father openly. And his father gets angry.
He has so many questions.
And now think of this. I mean, I know that, this dude is angry. This father is angry on his son. But when does a father, to what level of anger does a father need to go to tell his son to leave? He needs to be pretty angry. He needs to be not only angry and offended, but he also needs to be fearful of his life. He's scared. Because his son is questioning the gods. So-called. You understand what I'm saying? His son is questioning the gods. So let's put that in a modern day context. So let's say we live in a Muslim community. And some little girl or guy, your age or a little older, there's no Allah doesn't exist, na'udzubillah, there is no God, or Jesus is the God, or whatever. In a Muslim community, how is the Muslim community going to react? You'll be angry and frustrated. And they're going to try and either counsel this kid, and when counseling doesn't work, what's going to happen? They're not going to kill the kid, but they're going to isolate him. And so the parents of this child are going to be isolated from the community. They're going to lose their respect. They're going to lose their power. They're going to lose their influence. And they may lose their jobs. They may lose their money. They may lose everything because of a child talking outwardly against something that everyone believes in. And that is exactly what happened here. His father was so angry with him not only because he was offended by what Ibrahim a.s. was saying, but also because this guy was risking everything. He was risking his entire livelihood because of his child. He says, you know what, I'm not going to risk that. You need to go. You need to go. And he said to Ibrahim, leave. What did Ibrahim say?
Okay.
He didn't just say that. And this is another cool thing about him. He did not get angry. He did not get frustrated. He did not get agitated towards his people. He loved his people. No matter what they were doing, he still loved them. He loved his father. And he said, Father, you know what? Oh, he said, Ya Abi. That's a very kind of loving name to call your father. Ya Abi, I'm going to pray for your forgiveness. You may be throwing me out, but I'm going to continue to pray to Allah so that He forgives you. And He brings you to the right path. He shows you the right. Guy's being kicked out of his house. And at that moment, that's what he says. And remember, he's a rich kid. He has everything he ever wanted. And now he's losing everything he ever wanted. And he's still not angry. He's still not frustrated. You understand? So then this child, and this was actually before, he goes to a cave and he sits down and he starts thinking. And that's what the ayahs of Surah Al-An'am is about. It depicts the scene when Ibrahim alayhis salam, it literally describes from one stage to the next how he looks at the stars, he looks at the moon, he looks at the sun, and each one of them he questions, is this my God? Is this my Lord? And then he reasons in his mind, no, this can't be my Lord. He goes down, he disappears. The moon comes up, but then it goes away. The sun comes up, but then it goes away. The stars come up, then they go away. The reasoning in this young man's mind is so cool.
Wonder why would his father kick him out?
That was after he's reached the truth. After he's gone through this rigorous exercise of thinking and contemplating and looking at the world around him and trying to arrive at the truth. Trying to arrive at the truth. And when he does, his stability on the truth, his solidity on the truth is so much so that nothing can deter him. People are throwing him into the fire. His father is kicking him out of the house. Later on in his life, he's told to sacrifice his son. And so much more happened to him. He left his young son and his wife in a desert. Allah told him to do that. He left them there. Allah told him, sacrifice your son. He was ready to do that. And so much more. Where does that kind of belief come from? And you kind of start to see that when you study his childhood, how he arrived at the truth. An inquisitive mind, exploring the world, exploring it bit by bit by bit, questioning it at every stop, until he arrived at the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So now, it was just a preliminary story of Ibrahim alayhis salam, but there are a few lessons that I want you to take away from here. Few lessons that every Muslim child, every Muslim youth, and in extension every adult Muslim needs to take away from the legacy of this coolest man. And how cool he was as a child. 1, he was not afraid. And I'm going to ask you this in a second here. He was not afraid to stand up for what did not make sense. Anything that he couldn't make sense of, that doesn't seem right, that doesn't seem okay, that doesn't make sense to me, he stood up and he questioned it. What is that? Can you explain that to me? Why do you do that? What's the purpose? What's the end goal? Where does it come from?
I'm afraid of doing that. I'm also afraid of correcting an adult.
Precisely. Which is normal, right? But then what do we learn from Ibrahim alayhis salam? He asked questions. He asked questions. He asked and questioned everything around him. The entire fabric of life was questioned by this young dude, alayhi salam. He questioned it. And when he touched that sensitive button, things started to explode. And I'll get to the benefit of Zaira. Go over there. I'll get to the benefit of what. Yes, he questioned everything. Yes, he put himself into a lot of struggle. But the legacy he left behind. Oh my God. The legacy this man left behind. By those questionings. By standing up for what seemed to be right, what seemed to be true. His legacy, his example remains with us until the end of time. Remains with us until the end of time. I'll come to that. Number one, he had no fear in standing up and questioning things. Why is that? Why is that? Why does this happen? What are you doing there? And he's not being arrogant. He's not being insolent. He's not like, oh, Father, you know what? I'm going to question everything you do. That's just what I want to do. No, it really didn't make sense to him. And when it really didn't make sense to him, he questioned it.
But there is a lot of questions just for a young little man.
It is. The guts on this guy. But then, number two, what kind of questions did he ask? He asked intelligent, inquisitive questions. He didn't just blurt out, Baba, why are you eating a piece of bread? Why are you not eating rice? That's a dumb question to ask. It's not a dumb question. Like, you want to know, yes, you can ask, and I can give you an answer. But the reasons he asked the questions is because it just didn't make sense to him. And so when does something not make sense to you? When does something not make sense to you? When you actually think about it. When you're actually sitting there and going, why are they doing that? That doesn't seem right. Stones, they don't move. They don't say anything. Why are they worshiping them like that? Why are they offering a piece of stone food? Why are they offering a drink? Like, there's a fly coming and sitting down on the drink, and this stone can't even say anything about his own drink. Why are they worshiping him? So you see that inquisitive mind? You see the questions in his own mind? Until he thought about them, he didn't say them out loud. When he's thought about them, he's given it enough thought. Now he's like, why are you doing that? Can you explain it to me? He's respectful. He says, yeah, Abi. He doesn't say, hey, dumb man, what are you doing? He respects his father. He respects his people. He loves his people. But then he does question. And so two things that we learned from there. One, two things that we learned. Number one, he stood up for the truth when it didn't make sense. Number two, he questioned, but he questioned in a respectful way. He maintained, so he was wise. He had wisdom. He understood that you can't just insult people like that. But you need to question something that doesn't make sense. It's a very fine balance to have. Zaira and Nahiya understand this. Very fine balance to have. To have respect on one side, but also to question something that just doesn't make sense. Both of those you need to have. You can't be the dumb little kid that just blurts out a question without thinking, without respect. With Zaira, you question. You need to have respect for elders. Definitely. Definitely. But then you also, Allah demands that you question something that just doesn't seem right. You have to question it. Like we questioned a few days ago. Some people are saying suhoor is when the adhan of Fajr has gone off. Some people say suhoor ends when the light of the sun starts to break the horizon. We're taught that it's Fajr. But then other people say that it's light. And now we're faced with this dilemma. We need to start asking questions. Which one really is it? And we need to do our research. And we need to come to conclusions and come to the truth.
We're all very confused.
True. But the last thing that really strikes about this young dude, alayhi salam, he had this innate love for his people. He didn't hate them. The reason why he stood up in the bazaar and he talked to the people, tried to knock some sense into them, is because he loved them. He loved his father, and he didn't want to see these people go to a bad place, do things that just didn't make sense, waste their lives. You understand what I'm saying? So let's sum this up. Let's sum this up.
Summary?
Summary. How does a little man, little boy, alayhi salam, arrive at the truth?
I have no idea.
He arrives at the truth by questioning what doesn't make sense. Anything that doesn't make sense, he questions. But he questions with an inquisitive mind. He questions with he's thoughtful, he's intelligent. He looks at it deeply and tries to make sense of it first himself. And then he starts to question. And then he takes time out for himself and he looks at everything around him. And he surveys and examines everything around him. And he asks questions about that. And then he arrives at the truth. And then he preaches that truth. He says that truth out to everyone because he loves all his people. That is the level of belief. That's how a person arrives at the truth. And when you arrive at the truth in that manner, it's basically a formula that Allah has given us in the Quran. It's so amazing. The reasons why, remember I told you Allah doesn't just tell you stories. There are reasons why He tells you the stories. So remember, we're doing tadabbur. So why is Allah telling us this story, a detailed story? He gives not one, not two, 5 ayats of the Quran. 5 ayats of the Quran in Surah Al-An'am are devoted to Ibrahim a.s. just sitting there and looking at the stars and the sun. He devotes it to that in detail. Star comes up, is that my God? No, goes down. Moon comes up, is that my God? No, moon goes down. Sun comes up, is that my God? No, sun goes down. Detailed description of what Ibrahim a.s. just did and sat there and did. And the reason why Allah is giving us that is that Allah is showing you one of the reasons, and this is my own tadabbur, one of the reasons is that Allah is showing us how do you arrive at the truth. Allah didn't say believe in me unless you're sure. Allah didn't say, everybody in the world has to believe. Allah said seek the truth. That is the highest pursuit that you can have. Seek the truth. And to seek the truth, you have to do what Ibrahim a.s. did. I'm not saying wipe your brain clear and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to just go from zero, not believe Allah is there. Because you already believe Allah is there. But you need to show yourself the reason why you believe in Allah. You need to question it. And look at the world around you. Come back to His ayah and link those two together. Because Allah has given you the ultimate guidance. Allah has shown you the truth. But you need to link it for yourself. If you don't have an inquisitive mind, you're not questioning everything you're seeing, then you're never going to be arriving at the truth. And the level of belief, may Allah give us that level of belief. I don't know if that's possible in this day and age. Where He's ready to sacrifice His son at a dream that He saw. Allah give us that level of belief, inshallah. That's how it comes. And that's the lesson I'm going to leave you with today. The lesson I'm going to leave you with today is if we are not going down that path of seeking the truth, then we may never arrive at the truth. And we need to do that. Okay? We'll go into more stories of Ibrahim a.s. and I'll take some opinions from you, what other stories you want to listen to, and we'll go through a series of stories from prophets and kind of derive these lessons from what the prophets did and why they did them. Inshallah. Was this fun? Mm-hmm. You learned something?
I learned that Prophet Ibrahim has been through really serious tests.
MashaAllah.
And he was so brave to do them all.
Exactly. Barakallahu fi wa lakum fil Quran al Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.